It's time for Northwest Georgia Sports Live on Talk Radio WLAQ AM 1410 and the new 96.9 FM. Here's your hosts, Matt Davis and Ian Griffin.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome into another edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. We're glad to be with you, and we're going to have a good time today and talk about some high school football, and we'll see what happens, man, because we've had a couple of technical things that have occurred over the last little bit, and I just noticed that I can't hear in the headphones, so that's a little distracting.
I've got you in mind.
You do?
So, yeah, maybe it's just a volume issue there.
Maybe I'm unplugged or something like that.
Who
We can
knows?
figure that out, but for some reason I'm not getting it. But I'm glad to know that you are.
Yes,
So-
it's really nice and crisp.
Yeah, that's good.
But it's been one of those mornings.
It has been one of those mornings.
Yeah.
The power went out right at the end of our previous show, and then that recycled the internet and everything else like that. Took a while to get everything going, and that's just part of the things that happen when you're dealing with technology. So today, dealing with technology. Wow. Everybody can relate to that,
Yes,
you know?
yeah, absolutely.
So let's see here. Let's go ahead and jump into our conversation. It's hard to believe it, but we're at that third part of the season. Ian, we are talking playoffs this week on the show.
Yes, we are, Matt, and we're going to be depending on our area teams to keep this show going a few more weeks, if at all possible. Hoping we've got a lot of teams that have a chance to make a playoff run, and excited to see how they do. I like the matchups that we've got, and I know you want to preview who we're going to be talking about before we start picking games.
Yes, we do want to do that, and so we'll go ahead and start to run down the list in just a couple of moments. But the first thing we're going to do, though, is kind of go over, the results of last week's picks. That was the final week of the regular season. We've done 12 weeks of picking these games, and last week we were both perfect. Ian, we both went 9-0 in our picks. Didn't miss one.
Man. Well done. So do we continue this contest into the playoffs where it's much harder to predict?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
And you have a one-game lead going in. 95-15 was your regular season record. Mine was 94-16.
Okay.
So
Separated by one game.
one of the things that we need to do, and I've got the records for the last 4 or 5 years, we need to start keeping cumulative records and kind of go back and look
That'd
how
be
we
nice.
do year to year and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I'd like to see that.
I'm sure either one of us has plenty of time to go ahead and do that, huh?
Sure. Yeah, I'll knock that out today.
We've got, let's see, a comment here from Austin Butler. He said, Season 3, it's here, strap it up, and play ball. That's right, man.
Let's go.
This is what everybody's fighting for throughout the regular season, to have the opportunity once you get to the end of the regular season to keep playing some football. And as Coach Groves talked about, on the show yesterday, everybody's record's the same at this point in time.
Yeah, I like that mentality. You beat one team, you beat 16. Moving on to the next one. So, I think we've got some teams with a good shot to make, a strong playoff run here. Maybe even some championship aspirations will be fulfilled.
I hate to keep doing this on the air because I know it's not the best professional practices, but it is absolutely driving me crazy not having headphones that work. So let's try another pair. Oh, it doesn't work here either.
Oh, wow.
So yours are working.
Mine are working. Yeah, I've got good crisp audio over here.
Okay, I have no idea. Go figure. All right. Well, so here's our slate of games, and then we'll take our first break, and we'll come back, and hopefully in 30 seconds I can figure out how to fix this thing. I kind of doubt it. But we are going to have a look at 7A Division I today in terms of our picks. And, of course, one of those games we're actually going to be at. Really looking forward to going with the Darlington Tigers down to Whitfield Academy. I always mess myself up with that one, Ian, because when you look at it, it looks like you should say Whitefield, but it's actually Whitfield Academy.
It does.
But in 7A Division I, the 4C Darlington Tigers are going on to take on region champs out of Region 6A Division I. That's the Whitfield Academy Wolfpack. Then you've got the 3-seed Pepperell Dragons going on to face the Mount Vernon Mustangs. Interesting game time for that on a Friday. That thing kicks off at 2 p.m., and the reason for that is the stadium they're playing at does not have lights. And now that you've got the time change and all that kind of stuff, they got to start this thing early to get the game in before it gets too dark to play football, since they don't have lights at the stadium. We just learned that a little bit ago on our previous show. You've got the Mount Pisgah Christian Patriots going to Dade County to take on the Wolverines, who got the 2-seed out of 7A Division I. And then you've got the region champs, 10-0 for the first time since 1974, first region championship since 2003, Tryon Bulldogs. They're going to be hosting St. Francis Knights. Kind of an interesting situation there in terms of that region that, 7A Division I matches up against, and that region only has 4 teams that plays GHSA football. So the St. Francis Knights have had a tough year. They went 1-7, and they lost all of their region games, but they were in the playoffs before the season even started. So kind of just one of those strange things that happens when you have regions that have that few of teams. And obviously, Tryon should be fine there in that first round. We're going to get into that game in just a little bit.
Everybody can just go to Thatcher's Barbecue and load up on some Q and enjoy a game that should be over by the first quarter.
7AA, we're going to talk about the Model Blue Devils playing against Thurl Panthers. Then we're going to have the Rockmart Yellow Jackets hosting Washington Bulldogs. We'll move into 6 AAA after that, and we'll talk about the Adairsville Tigers hosting Gilmer Bobcats. And then we'll move on to 7-4A later on the show, talk about the Cedartown Bulldogs hosting Holy Innocents Golden Bears. We'll talk about a couple of games out of 7-5A today. Cartersville is going to host the Centennial Knights. And then we'll talk about the Cass Colonels taking on the Kell Longhorns. That game will be, I actually put at Cass, but it's not at Cass. It's at Kell. I don't know why I did that. And 6-6A, the Rome Wolves are going to be playing at home against the Sprayberry Yellow Jackets. So that's the slate of games we'll talk about. There's some other games, if we have time at the end of the show, that we may talk about, maybe not necessarily pick, but we had to leave a couple out this week because there's just, so many different local teams playing in the playoffs, and we just didn't have time in our, basically 45-minute show or whatever to cover everything. So, again, if time allows, we may talk about a couple of those other teams. But I did want to mention this in our opening segment of the game before we move any further. But coming up today, the Unity Middle School football team is going to host Central Christian, and that's going to be in a championship game. That game will be played out at Branch Bragg Field at Coosa High School at 6 p.m. So we just want to urge everybody to get out there and support the kids and watch some championship football coming up this evening. It's exciting.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So,
and then tomorrow, wait, there's more. The varsity team from Unity Christian, the Lions, are going to play in the semifinals. They're going to host the same school, Central Christian, and that game will also be at Coosa at 7:30. So best of luck to the Unity Christian teams as they play, again, the middle school team today at 6 o'clock in a championship game, and then the varsity team playing in a semifinal game coming up tomorrow at Coosa. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and take our first break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to start picking some games. This is This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, and we are super glad to have you with us here on the program today. We shall return.
Shop for your next car, truck, or SUV at Riverside Auto Group. Check out riversideautogroup.com today to browse their selection, or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet Buick GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, and the all-new Riverside Buick GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group. Visit riversideautogroup.com.
He did it.
Yeah.
He did it.
That round of applause is not for us and the show per se. It's because I did some fiddling around here on the board and found a way to find some headsets that will actually give me some audio, because that was absolutely terribly distracting. But here we are, and now we're all systems is a go as far as I can tell. So yeah.
Congratulations, Matt.
Do want to run down our coverage for you for high school football coming up this weekend. Of course, we had the Coach Grove show yesterday. You can hear the radio edition of that coming up tomorrow, Friday evening at 6 o'clock, or you can watch it on demand on our YouTube channel. or our Facebook Live feed. You can find that post and find the show and watch it anytime you like. But we will have the radio edition tomorrow at 6. At 6:45, it's the actually at 6 is This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. At 6:45, it's the Coach Grove Show radio edition. At 7:15, we're going to go live with the Tiger Kickoff Show from Mableton, Georgia at Whitfield Academy. Then at 7:30, it's kickoff between your Darlington Tigers down there at Whitfield Academy. And then after the game, it's the Rome Orthopedic Center Scoreboard Show. And the final edition of that show for the 2023 season is coming up tomorrow. So, yeah, man, fired up about it.
Yeah.
Going to have a good time.
It's playoff time, and we've got comprehensive coverage for you on Friday night. It's going to be an action-packed day. And we found out, talking to our buddy Jeff Gable, there is some shakeup, and I'm sure we'll talk about it when we get to the matchups. But if you're a local person, you want to go watch some playoff football. Pepperell's playing at 2:00 tomorrow. Is that
2:00?
Yeah.
I've seen games played on Saturdays during the day and things of that sort, but I don't remember in all the years of us covering football a game being played on a Friday at 2:00. That is really strange, but evidently, that's what's going down. So, yeah.
Should be interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, man, I guess with that said, we'll just go ahead and start getting this thing rolling. You ready?
I am. All right, we're going to start with a game we will not pick because we call the games and we recuse ourselves from picking, but we will discuss it, and that's Darlington traveling to Mableton to play the Whitfield Academy Wolfpack. Tigers finished their season up at 6-4, and thanks to tiebreakers, they were in a region championship game situation last week in Trine. That game did not go the Tigers' way, and because of the tiebreakers with Dade County and Pepperell, they end up with the 4 seed and will play the number 1 seed from 6A, Whitfield Academy. This team is 5-5. But they performed well in region play, and it's kind of hard to read this region as a whole based on their results. They were beaten badly by some pretty good teams like Raven County and Wesleyan, but they did earn the number 1 seed, so you can't take them lightly. We talked to Coach Groves yesterday. He says they've got some big tackles. They're about the same size at the guard and center position up front, so that battle at the line of scrimmage should be fairly even, but they do have some big guys they can lean on. They like to run the ball. A lot of various formations here. You're going to see some option, a little wishbone action, and they run the pistol and run the ball primarily, but they are going to take some shots down the field. So Darlington is going to have to play really, really sound defense to win this game. They're going to have to lean on their corners, and they've got 2 good ones in Sammy Konchesky and Demarion Floyd, and Timmy Smith back there at safety has been lights out all year. I heard nothing but good reviews from Coach Groves on that young man and how he's always in the right spots. And if he hasn't been, he put it on himself. They had a tight end that busted loose last week, and he's like, we didn't tell him about this particular coverage. So the Tigers are pretty sound in the secondary, but they're going to have to play stout up front. They're going to have to bring their A game. And we saw them do something they haven't done all season last week and turn the ball over as much as they did. 4 turnovers against Trine. Can't do that and win football games. So Darlington needs to keep a clean card. But I think we're going to see an energized Darlington team that's ready to go play tomorrow night.
Yeah, and this is one of those things all season long. If you go back and review the games, anytime Darlington's had a tough week, the next week they've been able to really bounce back. So they're a group of guys that just get out there and work hard every single week, and they'll have a good game plan for this particular game. A little bit about the series history. Whitfield Academy leads it 2-1. The last meeting was in 2021 under some pretty unusual circumstances. You'll remember about that game. The Wolfpack won 14-13. And Darlington and the Wolfpack, they were not even supposed to play that week. It was another team that had to pull out because of a COVID situation. So they found out about this opponent like 2 days before the game. I'd never seen that happen before. That was kind of wild. And then the previous time, I was actually up at the game. I believe it was when Tajay Watley was carrying the mail there for the Darlington Tigers, and it was a foggy night. And I believe Tajay was playing a little bit banged up in that particular game, and the Tigers ended up losing a game that I think it was 6-0 or something like that. It was kind of a strange night. So there's been strange things happening in terms of the matchup. Whitfield Academy has been a playoff team the last 7 seasons in a row and 14 times in 22 seasons of playing GHSA football. They've made it to the second round 4 times, but that's as far as they have advanced. They got a first-year head coach in Robert Walsh, who came over from Savannah Christian, where he was the DC for 5 years. They have a really good program over there, and he did a great job as defensive coordinator. He's a really enthusiastic coach, and he's got some buy-in from these guys guys. So I do think this will be a tough test for the Darlington Tigers, but certainly think they can hang with this team. So we'll see what happens. We don't pick this one, but looking forward to going down there with the Darlington Tigers to call this game. I do want to mention this, and we'll do this with every matchup that we have, what the potential is beyond this round for the team that wins. But the winner of this matchup is going to play number 3 seed Rabun or number 2 seed Social Circle. I think most people would pick Rabun County to pull off the win in that game and set up a road trip if it's Darlington. And then if Whitfield Academy being the 1 seed, Rabun or Social Circle being Rabun a 3 or Social Circle a 2, Whitfield Academy would host in that scenario. So if Darlington wins, they will go on the road, and it'll either be to Rabun County or Social Circle. That'll be next week. So we'll see what happens, but you got to get past this week first.
Yes, you do.
All right. Well, let's see, man. You ready to pick the next one?
Let's do it. The Pepperell Dragons at the Mount Vernon Mustangs. We found out just a little while ago. This is a 2:00 kick on a Friday. Apparently, the home stadium for Mount Vernon has no lights, so they usually kick off at 4:00. But with the recent fallback and time change, they're going to make sure they don't end up in a situation where there's not enough light to play the game. So they're kicking it off at 2:00. And our buddy Jeff Gay will be there covering it, so we'll get a little insight from him on whatever happens. But how do you see this one, Matt? I'll let you go first.
You know, this one was kind of a tough one to call. When you look at Pepperell, they're 5-5, 4-2 in region play. Kind of had some ups and downs this season. It was kind of a roller coaster ride of a season. Started 0-3, won 4 straight, highlighted by the win over Darlington. After that, dropped a couple in a row to Tryon and Dade County, both really, really excellent football teams. Then finished the season by winning over Coosa. Everybody, kind of expected that to happen. I know in the game against Coosa, running back Tyler Rogers was out with an injury. I don't know how banged up he is, if he's available for this game or what the situation is there. But Maddox Garcia had 133 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Quarterback Sam Ross had a big game, 4 touchdown passes. So, Pepperell has some different things that they can do on offense to score, even without Rogers toting the mail for them. So I think they'll be able to score some points. This Mustangs team, they're kind of a bit of a mystery to me. I know they were ranked in the top 10 for 5 weeks during the regular season, got up as high as 8. The only ranked team that they played was Elbert County. They lost that one in a shootout, 45-40. So I think this team, can score. They're averaging 38.5 points a game. So at the end of the day, I almost want to say I look at this as sort of a coin flip game because I think these teams match up pretty well. But it's at a weird time. It's on the road for the Pepperell Dragons. I guess I'm going to spot Mount Vernon a few points for that and the success that they've had and some consistency throughout the year. But I don't really feel comfortable about this game one way or the other. So I'm just going to take the home team, Mount Vernon, picking up the win. How do you see it?
Yeah, I don't know what to make of this region as a whole. I have a feeling that 7A has the advantage here, but I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Pepperell's got tons of playmakers. That I could totally see them going on the road and winning this game. You've got this Mount Vernon team. They came 1 point from winning this region. They lost to Whitfield by 1 point. So they're a good team. They were going to be they were close to being region champions and getting that 1 seed. They still get to play at home. I think the weird kickoff time is a head game too for Pepperell, and I feel the same way. The weird kickoff time, home field advantage. I think it's really, really close, but I'm going to go with home team too.
All right, so we picked the same in that one, Ian. We're going to move on. We've got, a couple more games to talk about for Region 7A Division I teams, and let's talk about the next one.
Did you want to highlight who they'd play in the next
round?
Oh,
yes. Thank you for reminding me about that. Of course, this one is already settled. The winner would play either Athens Christian or Prince Avenue Christian, but Athens Christian would forfeit this matchup. And that's one of those kind of strange scenarios that opens up another topic that we may talk about a little bit today. But Athens Christian plays in a region where every team makes the playoffs before the season even begins because of the amount of teams that are in the region. So Athens Christian, I think, or Prince Avenue Christian, rather, was like a 63-point favorite to win that game. And but the game ends up being a forfeit. So Prince Avenue Christian is going to be getting a bye essentially there in that first round, and they'll wait to find out whether it's going to be the Dragons or the Mount Vernon Mustangs that they're going to face at home at Prince Avenue Christian down there in Bogart, Georgia. Isn't that how you say that? Down near Athens. And that'll take place next week. So, yeah, pretty interesting stuff there.
Yeah, an 0-10 team playing Prince Avenue Christian in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Don't blame them.
I don't know if this will be the case, but I know that with reclassification that's taking place next year and private schools as far as single A through 3A all playing for one state championship, there's a lot of talk about how some of the private schools, around the state are going to leave the GHSA and go into a different league. And I don't know if Athens Christian will be one of those teams, but I certainly would imagine that they would be considering it based on how the season went. So we'll see. All right. Well, let's talk about the matchup here.
Okay. Mount Pisgah.
Did I blow the horn yet?
Not yet.
Okay. It just didn't feel right unless you get the air horn.
It doesn't. Mount Pisgah Christian Patriots at the Dade County Wolverines. Patriots are about to find out what the drive to Trenton is all about. And as our good friend Steve Conrad said, he says this about the Darlington Tigers, but you better buckle your chin straps when you play Dade County because they are a hard-nosed football team that is going to play physical up front, and they want to run the ball. I really think, Pisgah has a losing record, some embarrassing losses. I think this is going to be another one. I think they go up to Trenton and get their tails whipped.
I'm feeling that with you on this one. The Patriots made it to the quarterfinals last season behind a pretty stout offensive attack. Last year, they averaged over 30 points a game. Well, they graduated a lot of their firepower because this year's squad, they're not quite averaging 12 points a game. So they lost a ton. The Wolverines played a tough front-end loaded schedule that really seasoned and prepared them. You could see early in the season that this team had a tremendous amount of potential. They have not won a playoff game since 2010. That drought is going to end on Friday night. They're going to ride Landon Williams and a stout physical effort, as you pointed out, to the win here. Behind that big running game, they can throw the ball as well. So I'm with you. I think this is going to be a playoff win for the Dade County Wolverines and the first one since 2010, if you can believe that.
So that's tough to believe.
Yeah, we're picking the same, and I won't forget to mention it this time, but the winner is going to play the winner of 4-seed Jasper at number 1 seed Commerce. So there you have that. All right, we've got one more game that we're going to pick in Region 7A Division 1, and we sort of already picked this one when we talked about it initially, but let's officially do it now.
Well, if we have time at the end, we'll probably, give a little hate to the GHSA for the current playoff system, but they're doing the best that they can, I'm sure. St. Francis taking on Trine. This is an undefeated Trine team. This is a St. Francis team with one win, and they've got to go to Trine and play a very, very good football team. And boy, we were in Trine last week, and the celebration was on. This was a fan base and a program that was hungry. I couldn't believe it had been since 74 since they'd had a undefeated season, and couldn't believe that it was 2003. That was the last time they brought home a region championship. Just shows you how hard it is to do, and you've got to appreciate it when those opportunities come. This is a good team. This game's over before it starts. Enjoy your barbecue, sit back, relax. The games will get tougher going forward, but Trine wins this one in a landslide.
Little series history for this one. St. Francis leads 2-1. The last meeting was last year. St. Francis won in the second round to eliminate Trine. 34-20 was the final score. The Knights would finish in the semifinals. They played Prince Avenue Christian in that game and lost 24-20. Of course, everybody knows Prince Avenue Christian went on to win the championship. So that all tells you that this St. Francis team, which went 1-7 this year, 0-3, they got a new coach. Frank Barton was their coach last year, and he's now over at Christian Heritage, but they lost their dudes. It's been a tough year. So, I think Trine's easily going to get revenge in this game. As you mentioned with Trine, got a lot of experience with this team. They're super hungry. You had some situations last week, Ian, we were watching them play Darlington, where Darlington threw some punches. Yeah. Of course, we saw them, score on the first play from scrimmage. Both teams were able to do that. We saw Darlington, recover an onside kick after they ran a kickoff back for a touchdown to start the second half. And what did Trine do?
Just kept coming.
They picked up a turnover, and they just kept coming and kept stealing that momentum back. So this is one of those teams that's playing a really focused brand of football, and they're going to be a tough out. They really are. It's going to be interesting to see how deep a run Trine can put together in the playoffs this year.
I tell you, and hopefully we can get a report on this, but Cade Smith was injured in that game against Darlington last week, and he's a key part of this Tryon offense. They don't need him to beat St. Francis. And I'll be interested to see, depending on how serious the injury is, if they rest him for the second round of the playoffs. He gutted it out in a game that they needed him in, but be interesting to see how much he plays, if at all.
Well, here's a stat line for you to have a look at. Toby Maddox, top running back and bell cow there for the Tryon Bulldogs, rushed for 261 yards and 4 touchdowns. He had 32 carries in the game against Darlington. Also had 4 receptions for 54 yards and a touchdown.
And he threw a pass, I think, about 40 yards on the dime on a halfback pass. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He does a little bit of everything.
Right in the breadbasket, too. I mean, he threw it between 2 defenders and hit his receiver in the numbers.
Yeah. Yep. Unbelievable player and a great team, very physical football team, and they're on a mission. There's no doubt about that. And so we'll go ahead and set up the next round for you. The winner is going to play the winner of the Oglethorpe, which is a 3 seed, playing over at Elbert County. And obviously, if Tryon being a number 1 seed, if they win, they will host in the second round, no matter which team it is. But I will say this, if you ever get the opportunity to go watch an Elbert County home game, take that opportunity. It's really neat.
Granite Bowl, right?
They play at the Granite Bowl. Of course, that's the granite capital of the world over there in Elbert County. And the seating bowl is made out of granite. And they've got a scoreboard that is really, really familiar to Georgia fans because it's the scoreboard that was at Sanford Stadium in the year that in 1980 when Georgia won the first national championship. Yeah. Now they've got multiple.
Now they do.
I got to remind myself of that. So anyway, it's really neat environment to see a football game. And if you, like I say, if you ever get a chance to go over there, go check it out. It's one of those stadiums in the state of Georgia that you need to put on your bucket list if you're into that kind of thing. So that's going to wrap up our conversation about 7A Division I. There's a lot to cover there for sure.
Doubt.
So what we're going to do now is catch our breath, take a break, and when we come back, we're going to move into a couple of games from 7AA. Looking forward to our conversation there. And we appreciate you being with us today on our Facebook Live feed, or if you happen to be watching on our YouTube channel. And then, of course, on Friday, welcome again our radio listeners. We'll be back.
Shop for your next car, truck, or SUV at Riverside Auto Group. Check out riversideautogroup.com today to browse their selection, or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet Buick GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, and the all-new Riverside Buick GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group. Visit riversideautogroup.com.
Model travels to Therrell, but not really, right? They play at something municipal stadium.
Yes, that is going to be isn't it Midtown, the name of that?
Yes, that's right.
That stadium. So this is a place that Model, I think it was a couple of years ago, actually played there when they played Booker T. Washington. So this is a stadium that, the coaching staff and some of the players are going to be familiar with getting ready for this particular matchup. But Model's going to be playing at this stadium against the Therrell Panthers for this matchup. So, and just to give you a little bit of background on this one, this is the first meeting between these two teams. Model comes in as the 3 seed. They're 6-2 on the season. 4-2, they went in region play. Therrell, meanwhile, they've had a really good season, Ian. They ended up 9-1, went 5-1 in their region to grab that 2 seed. So what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, this is a Therrell team that is really, really stingy on defense. They give up 6.6 points per game. I think the Blue Devils have played with teams and beaten teams as good as Therrell throughout the season. It's always tough to compare these regions, but I feel like this is a matchup. Model's proven they can stay in games with their defense, so I think this one is close, but I'm going to take Therrell to win. Hate to do it. I'd love to take the Blue Devils.
Well, the Panthers, I don't believe, have ever won a state playoff game to my knowledge. They won a region mini game back in 2016. This season, they posted that record we talked about. It was impressive, but when you look at the strength of schedule, you got to factor that in. They did not face a single top 10 ranked team this year, and during a quick scan of opponents, most teams they played did not have excellent records this year. So that was one of the things that I took into consideration with my pick. When you look at this Model team, they're a gritty team. I think they play, very solid and physical game as far as the defense is concerned. And when you look at this coaching staff, they got one of the best coaching staffs that you're going to find in the state, with Jeff Honeycutt as the head coach there. But then you also have Brent Bell as your offensive coordinator, so you're going to expect some wrinkles in the offense to try to catch Therrell flat-footed on defense a couple of times in this game, and otherwise just have a really, really good coaching staff. Obviously, everybody knows that Tommy Eighth is over there helping coach the offensive line there and brings a ton of experience here to this football team. So I think they're going to have an excellent game plan, and at the end of the day, I actually see this one differently. I think that Model is going to pull off what would be considered an upset in this football game. I'm going to take the Model Blue Devils to win it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close.
All right, and the winner of this game, by the way, is going to play the winner of Providence Christian and Callaway. Most people would pick Callaway to win that football game, and if Model wins and goes on the road and plays at Callaway, well, it wouldn't be the first time that they have done that before, because when I covered the Model games on 95.7 The Ridge, we went over to watch Model play Callaway over at LaGrange Stadium over there, and it was kind of a tough night for the Blue Devils. I remember their quarterback and best linebacker at the time, Kyler Eldridge, got hurt in the first half. Pretty scary scene there. Thankfully, it wasn't as major of an injury as it looked like it was going to be. But once he was out of the game, it really became a tough affair. And it probably would have been anyway, because that Callaway team was really, really good. But so that'll be a tough matchup for either one of these teams that ends up winning this football game and has to play them in the next round. So anyway, just a little bit of background information there.
And we'll get good insight from our buddy Jeff Gable as well after this one.
Oh, absolutely, we will, for sure. Well, let's see. We've got one more game that we're going to pick in 7AA. And I should also mention this. We talk about strange times for games. Well, there's still the official shortage that's taking place in the state of Georgia, GHSA football games. So the teams that play in not just 7AA, but AA in general, all those games are on Saturday. And the same thing applies for 4A this year as far as the playoffs are concerned in the first round. Now, once you get past the first round, obviously you've got half as many teams playing in the playoffs, so all the games will shift back to Friday. You won't have those weird situations where you got teams playing on Friday and Saturday. So I thought I'd point that out. Both the games we're talking about in 7AA will be Saturday games. And we move on to the next one.
The Washington Bulldogs at the Rockmart Yellow Jackets. I've got a sneaking suspicion 7AA has an advantage in these playoff matches. I think they're the stronger region. The Bulldogs have a losing record, but they kind of hung with their region foes, none of which hold a candle to the Rockmart Yellow Jackets. Enjoy your Pizza Farm Friday night, ladies and gentlemen. This one will be all Rockmart.
Yeah, I have a tendency to agree with you on this one. I think Rockmart's going to beat Washington in all three phases of the game. This is the first time that these two teams have played. Rockmart's the number 6 team out of AA. One team out of Region 7 AA coming in at 8-2, 6-0. Played a really tough schedule that seasoned them and got them ready for this game. And when you look at the performance that they had over North Murray, I'm looking at that score as I'm like, is this right? They beat them 59-7. Could you believe that?
No.
I mean, my goodness. So I think that kind of tells you a lot about where this team is at the end of the season. So look out, Washington Bulldogs. It's going to be a tough night. The Rockmart Yellow Jackets are going to win. And I hate to tell you this, folks, but for every game that we're picking today, I put down who the matchup would be in the second round, except for this one. Do you have the bracket? I forgot to put my note.
I've got it over
down
here
on the sheet for this one. So
we found Rockmart.
Yeah,
there they are. So if Rockmart wins this game, which we expect them to, they'll be at home next week. Obviously, as the number 1 seed, and they will draw either 2-seed Union County or 3-seed Eagles Landing Christian, which is crazy that they're a 3-seed. Maybe they're down this year, but traditionally that is a stout program.
Oh, yeah. Had the opportunity to go down with the Darlington Tigers a few years ago and watch Darlington play them, and they had, 5 or 6 guys that were D1 guys, and they pretty much do every year. So they are typically loaded over there at Eagles Landing Christian Academy.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting for Rockmart, but I don't think they'll have any problems tomorrow or Saturday.
I'm with you on this one. So that's going to pretty much wrap up our conversation about 7AA games. And we are going to move into Region 6 AAA. We got a game that we're going to pick in 6 4A. Let's go ahead and talk about 6 AAA real quick, and then we'll get you ready for your next break here on the show. this week in Northwest Georgia football. Let's talk about this one game.
All right. We've got the Gilmer Bobcats at the Adairsville Tigers. The Tigers quietly had a outstanding season, man. Really, Coahella Creek pushed them a little bit there in the last week, but it was already decided they were the champs. How do you see this one unfolding? Matt, I'll let you take it first.
All right. Well, you've got the Gilmer Bobcats coming into the game. They're 6-4, 3-3 record. Adairsville 8-2, 7-0. Adairsville leads this series 2-1 with one tie. And the last meeting in this series was a long time ago. It was in 1999. Gilmer won it 20-0. The two wins for Adairsville in the series were back in 1998 and 1995. Gary Graves was the head coach of the Adairsville Tigers back during that period of time, and he's been the pastor out there at Calvary Baptist Church for a number of years. So that's been a long time ago since Adairsville picked up a win, or since these two teams played each other.
Right.
So that's one of the fun things about the playoffs is you get a lot of first meetings, you get a lot of matchups that you don't see very often, and all those sorts of things. So it's always fun for football history nerds like us to go back to the Georgia High School football historian site and kind of uncover some of these details. I always find that to be fun throughout the week.
Absolutely.
To do that. But anyway, that doesn't answer the question of who I think is going to win the football game. When you look at Gilmer, they've given up a lot of points this season, 26.1 points against per game, and the tough teams have had a field day against them. And I look at Adairsville Tigers as a tough team. They're good from top to bottom. They've been consistent on both sides of the ball this year, and their losses to Rabun County and Cass, they keep things fairly respectable in those games, and those are two really good football teams. So I think Adairsville is going to win this game with no problem.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Adairsville was battle-tested in non-region play, maybe more so than region play, but they took care of business when they had to. They went undefeated in their region, and Gilmer just gives up too many points for me to be comfortable saying they're even going to keep this one close. I like Adairsville to win, and the home team will please the fans.
That's right. And I will tell you that the winner is going to play the winner of Monroe area over at Sandy Creek. So that one of those two teams will be the next opponent for either Gilmer or, as we predict, the Adairsville Tigers. So that's going to wrap up our discussion about 6 AAA. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to move into 7-4A. We're going to talk about the Cedartown Bulldogs and their opponent. Then we're going to move into 7-5A, talk about a couple of games there. And then we'll wrap things up today talking about 6A and the Rome Wolves. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Shop for your next car, truck, or SUV at Riverside Auto Group. Check out riversideautogroup.com today to browse their selection, or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet Buick GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, and the all-new Riverside Buick GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group. Visit riversideautogroup.com.
Man, I love that song. You know why?
It means we get to talk more football.
That's right. And I didn't realize, but we've been kind of long-winded today because we're running out of time. So we're going to have to go through these last ones a little bit quicker than maybe we intended. So we'll just go ahead and jump right back into it.
Excellent. Holy Innocents, Golden Bears, traveling to Cedartown to take on the Bulldogs. The Golden Bears are 8-2. This is a proud program, championship caliber program. But the Bulldogs are peaking at the right time, man. I looked at the schedules. I think Cedartown's played tough competition all year long, and they are starting to find themselves right when you need to. Cedartown at home.
Yeah, this is where the benefits of playing a tough schedule like Cedartown has this year comes into play. They played 5 ranked teams this season. Cedartown did during the regular season. Took some lumps throughout the year. Obviously, they were a team that were a play away from winning a state championship, lost some of those guys from last year, and they were kind of, I don't want to say rebuilding, but kind of getting that team going with some new personnel this year and playing that tough schedule and coming out with a 7-3 record, 4-1 in region play, I think says a lot about the resolve and resiliency of this team and also the coaching that they're getting from Coach Abrams and his coaching staff. So Holy Innocents has not played a single ranked team. I think this is going to be a little bit of a shock for him here coming down to Cedartown and how good the Cedartown Bulldogs team is. So I think the Bulldogs are going to win as well. We picked the same in that one.
All right.
Yeah. All right. And the winner of it, by the way, is going to play the winner of 4-seed Pace Academy at number 1 seed North Oconee.
And watch out for a 4-seed Pace team, right?
Oh, man, you got to bring that up. Of course, if people don't know the reference to that, there was a year. How many years ago was that?
It wasn't too long
a little
ago,
while.
5 or 6 maybe.
They kind of run together now.
Yeah.
But Darlington won the region that year. They were a 1 seed, and they hosted a 4-seed Pace Academy in the playoffs. Got eliminated in the first round. Then Pace Academy went on a run and won the state championship that year. So that just goes to show you, to the point that we've talked about with the way the playoffs are determined in terms of how teams play, it's the luck of the draw a lot of times. Just because you got a 4-seed out of a region, they may be one of the best teams in the state. And sometimes you end up with 1 seeds, in a region that's got 4 teams.
That aren't very good at all.
Not very good.
Yeah.
So it's just the way it works out. It almost seems like if they could figure out a way, I think part of the problem is it's so subjective. If you go into a situation where you got a committee or something like that, seeding it like a basketball tournament, that you opened up a whole nother Pandora's box if you do something like that. But gosh, if there was a way to do that could be fair and not cause as many problems as that would cause, it would be nice if you could kind of seed it like that, don't you think?
I absolutely agree, but I understand it's a complicated equation.
It really is. Yeah. I just don't see how they could do that effectively. I know they tried it with the power ratings and single A a few years ago, and I mean, they changed it, so obviously they didn't think it worked out.
Right.
So, all right, I digress. Let's go ahead and jump back into it.
All right, we're moving up a region here, 7-5A. The Centennial Knights travel to Cartersville. Look, if Cartersville can escape their region unscathed, they're not going to have a problem at home. Cartersville.
I'm going with you on this one. When you look at this Cartersville team to go 10-0 with the tough schedule they had, how consistent they've been, their defense keeps them in games. They've got some pretty good offense as well. They've got a well-rounded, consistent football team all season long. They're not going to have any problems here. Cartersville's going to win this game with no issues whatsoever. This next one's a little different, though.
It is. The Kell Longhorns at the Cass. Or no, it's the other way around. Cass is at Kell. Kell is the 1 seed. Coach Gates actually was at Kell before he came to Cass. So he's familiar with this program. If you've never been to a game at Kell, beautiful facility, really, really good traditions that they've instilled there. It's a tough place to go play. Cass will not come in intimidated. I can promise you that. They played in a tough region. They're going to be ready. But this Kell team has been rolling. They haven't lost since their opening game of the season against Parkview. And I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if Kell goes in and pulls off, or if Cass goes in and pulls off the upset, but I'm going to pick Kell to win.
I'm going to pick Kell to win, but to your point, Ian, when you look at Cass and the heck of a schedule that they've had to play, Rome, Rockmart, Carsville, Dalton, Hiram, lost those teams, but they got better from the experience, and it prepares you for these types of situations. I think that they've faced teams as good as this Kell team throughout the course of the regular season, so it's not going to be like a shock to the system or anything like that to play against the Kell Longhorns. So maybe a little bit of upset potential here, but when you look at Kell, obviously, as you mentioned, they lost that 1 game to start the season in the Corky Kell, reeled off 9 straight wins. They've been so consistent. They are well coached. I think that they will win this game, but the final score may surprise a few people because I think this Cass team's got some good playmakers and a lot of fight in them. So I'll be interested to see the final score of this one at the end of the night.
Me too.
All right, and the winner of it is going to play either Loganville. Loganville's playing at Mays, so it'll be Loganville or Mays.
And Cass knocked Mays out last year, if I'm correct. So watch out for these Cass Colonels. I really wouldn't be shocked if they pull the upset.
We'll see what happens. We've got one more game to pick, and we are running low on time.
All right. Sprayberry Yellow Jackets come to Barron Stadium on Friday night, much like 2 years ago when Rome drew Johns Creek. I think the Wolves are getting a really tough 4 seed in Sprayberry. They're 6-4. They hung with a lot of teams in a very tough region. Regardless, I think the Wolves are deep. I think these seniors want it. They're going to be focused. Rome gets the job done and advances to the second round.
And let's see. There's one game in history of this matchup. Sprayberry leads the series 1-0. The last meeting was in 2008. Yellow Jackets won it 27-6. That was during the Sid Fritz era over at Rome. Rome beat Etowah last week 65-0. Reese Fountain having a phenomenal season. He was 8 of 11, passed for 214 yards, 4 touchdowns. And that's a great offense for this team. Got a very solid defense. They're good in all 3 phases of the game. Rome's going to be a tough out. And speaking of tough matchups, that second-round matchup, Ian, that is looming in the distance, maybe an opportunity for some revenge here for the Rome Wolves. And for people that aren't aware of this, the winner is going to play the winner of the North Forsyth at Hughes game. And people are like, Hughes? Yeah, Hughes ended up getting the 2 seed because Douglas County this year went undefeated. So this is a very good football team, and likely what you're going to see is a Rome and Hughes rematch from last year.
Semifinal game that Rome fell short in. So, you're going to have to go through the best at some point to win a championship, but the second round is a little early. But Rome's got to take care of business tomorrow. But if they do, that environment next week at Barron Stadium, yes, please.
Yep, no question about it. That'll be definitely one of the places to be as far as high school football in the state of Georgia this next weekend if Rome is going to get that rematch against Hughes, and we both predict that is going to be what happens next week.
We need your sound bite. Yes, have some.
I don't have one of those. I'm trying to think of something that might go along with that.
There we go.
Round of applause.
Round of applause. Yeah.
Everybody wants to see that, right?
Yeah.
Studio audience does.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank y'all. All right, well, guess what, man? We're out of time. We got to wrap it up.
It's been fun.
Yep, this has been another edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. Hope your team wins this weekend. We certainly want to take this opportunity to wish all the local teams the best of luck in their pursuit of a championship this year. The playoffs start this weekend. Hard to believe it. We're here, that third part of the season. Buckle your chin straps.
Let's go.
All right, that puts a wrap on this edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football.
Shop for your next car, truck, or SUV at Riverside Auto Group. Check out riversideautogroup.com today to browse their selection, or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet Buick GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, and the all-new Riverside Buick GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group. Visit riversideautogroup.com.